What's up, guys? In this video, I want to go through a easy, a medium, as well as a hard example for graphing cosecant. Therefore, at the end of this video, you're going to have a good foundation of how to graph cosecant, what are the steps, as well as what to look out for. So just like we're in the classroom, I'll go through in a basic example, but then also I'll make sure you are ready for those tests and exams where always the more difficult examples show up. So let's go and get started. And I'm just going to kind of work through my process, the way that I help my students or explain to my students how to graph cosecant. So the first example that we are going to work on is going to be the cosecant of 2x. All right. So my process for graphing cosecant is to not graph cosecant at all. It is to graph the reciprocal function, which is going to be sine. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm just going to think about this as the sine of 2x, okay? And that is the reason being is the sine of x and cosecant x are what we call reciprocal functions of one another. And you're going to see how their graphs are going to be related. So I don't like to focus on cosecant. I just like to focus on the reciprocal for sine. And then I want to just go on and go through the process that I have up to this point as far as graphing sine. Now, if you still need help graphing sine, I'll have some more examples down in the description down below to help you kind of go through those steps. But I'll kind of work through everything here just a little bit quicker. So the first thing when we're graphing sine, I always want to make sure I identify the amplitude. Remember, that's going to be the absolute value of a, which is the coefficient of your function, which in this example is absolute value of 1. And then I'm going to look at the period. Actually, let's put period over here. And the period is going to be my 2 pi divided by b, where b is the coefficient of x. So in this case, it's going to be 2 pi divided by 2, which is simply just going to give me pi. Then what I need to identify is going to be my x scale. And the x scale is simply going to be my period divided by 4. So I'm going to take pi and go ahead and divide it by 4. All right. And then I just want to see if there's any other transformations, any vertical or horizontal shifts or phase shifts. And in this case, there are none, but we'll get to those examples as we go. So what I'm going to do is just kind of create my x and my y axis because I'm using x and y's for these functions. And I know that a full period of sine, right? I know what that kind of graph looks like, but so I'm going to have, I'll put pi here. That's how long it's going to complete a cycle. And then halfway will be pi halves. This will be pi fourths. And the reason why I'm doing that, sorry about that, is the x scale is pi divided by 4, right? So I know I'm going to have 5 important points on my scale for sine. So I'm going to have pi fourths, pi halves, and this would be 3 pi over 4. And you can see the distance between each of these tick marks starting at 0 would be pi fourths, pi fourths, pi fourths, pi fourths, right? You keep on adding pi fourths there. The amplitude's 1, so that means I'm going to go up 1, and I'm going to be able to go down to 1. Okay, so that's 1, and that will be a negative 1. Now, when I'm going ahead and graphing sine, I don't know, I actually kind of left myself not enough room here, so I'm going to bring this down. Let's go to there. Okay, now a lot of times in the classroom, obviously, if I'm teaching on the board, I'll have like dry erase marker, so I can just go and erase it. Sometimes I'll tell my students to maybe even use like a dashed line so you can kind of represent it. Or you could use a pencil and just erase it, okay? Because again, we're graphing cosecant, we're not graphing sine. But I want to know what the sine function looks like. So hopefully at this point, you have at least an understanding of the parent function. For sine, you know it's going to have an intercept of 0, 0. Again, we don't have any transformations, right? We just have a change in the period. That's really the only thing that's happening in this graph. So I'm going to start at 0, 0, and then I'm going to go up to 1, down to 0, 0, down to negative 1, and then go to 0. Okay, now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and draw this red, and then I will delete it using my software. Now, the important thing here for cosecant is wherever I have an intercept, that is going to create a vertical asymptote. Okay. So you're going to go to these intercepts and you're going to create these vertical asymptotes. Now, the reason why this is the case, let me just kind of show you on general for cosecant. If I just looked at the cosecant of x, if we look at a unit circle with no transformations, okay, what I want you to be able to see is 1, 0 is right here, right? That's at the angle 0. Well, if you look at sine of x, right, what is the sine of that angle here? The sine represents the y coordinate, which in this case is 0. That's why we have that in the initial parent graph. So the parent graph looks like that. okay? So because again, the first angle is 0 and the sine of 0 is 0. However, when you look at cosecant, remember cosecant represents 1 over y, right? Where sine represents y as the coordinate point on the unit circle, cosecant represents 1 over y. So when we plug in the first angle of 0, which is, right here, we're going to get 1 over 0, which is undefined. That's why we have these asymptotes going on here. Now, the cool thing about this is these are the reciprocals. They're still going to share the point. Like this is 0, 1. 0, 1 and 1 over 1 is still going to be the same. So they're going to share these max and mins. And then if you remember the graph, when you have asymptotes, your graph has to approach them, okay? And so what it's simply going to do is just going to look like that. And then you simply just take from your max and your mins and you approach it. Now, if your teacher is asking you for 2 initial periods, all you simply need to do is continue your x scale. That's why it's so important to understand where the x scale is. Understand where your starting point is, which in this case, there's no transformations, but we'll get to that. But then you can just continue your x scale, adding pi over 4, and then you just continue this pattern. Now, again, we don't want to confuse our teacher and think that we're graphing sine. So I'm simply just going to erase that and say, hey, teacher, there we go. That's 1 period. And then you can obviously add an extra period as your teacher, as the directions ask for. All right, let's go to another one with actually is going to have some transformations. This one is going to be y, 2 plus 2 cosecant of x. All right, so on this one, again, we're not going to have a change in the period like we did up here because you can see there's no coefficient of x. But again, I'm not going to think about this in terms of cosecant. I'm going to go ahead and write y equals, let's go, a 2 sine of x plus 2. I always like to have the plus 2 at the end. I don't know. It gets familiar with me. I like to have that vertical shift at the end, okay? But we need to go and identify our amplitude. Again, this is going to be how high and or the half distance from the max and the min of from our sine graph. So again, I'm identifying this amplitude, but that's to help me graph sine. Cosecant does not have amplitude. So I'm just writing this stuff down so I can make sure I graph sine correctly. So therefore I can graph cosecant. But I want to clarify, cosecant does not have an amplitude. So I am finding the amplitude of my sine function. In that case, it's going to be the absolute value of 2, which in this case is just 2. Okay, and that is because of that 2 right there. My period is still going to be 2 pi because there's no coefficient of the x here. So it's just going to be a 2 pi. 2 pi divided by 1 is just 2 pi. So therefore my x scale is going to be 2 pi divided by 4, which is going to be pi halves. So that's going to be similar to what we have for our parent graph. And then we're going to see any other shifts. And you can see, yes, I have a vertical shift, and then we can say up 2. Okay, so when we have a vertical shift, when I'm graphing trig functions, I like to do something a little bit different. And again, this comes into what we're doing with like how we're explaining, showing our work to our teacher, okay? So I always like to recreate a new x-axis, all right? So if I'm shifting up 2, that means my whole graph, like think about this. Here's your original graph, right? If you're shifting it up 2, your new like x-axis is also kind of like, you want to like kind of have this line where the old x-axis was to kind of visualize how that graph is turning and intercepting, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new kind of x-axis. So let's do here's 2. So I'm going to draw a nice little dash line. That's going to help me kind of remember where the graph is going to intercept. Now I do have a x scale of 2 pi. So I'll say here is 2 pi. Half of that is going to be pi. This will be pi halves. And this will be 3 pi halves. Okay, something very familiar you should be with the parent graph that we have. Now, what's also important is my graph has an amplitude of 2. So over here, if you remember my sine graph went up 1 and down 1. Now, I kind of made this pretty big, and I'm kind of thinking I should do the same here. So my scale here is, I'll just make, let's do that 1 and then that 2. Okay, so what that's going to mean is my graph is going to go up 2 units and down 2 units. And again, that's going to be from this dash line. So there's 1, 2, and then I can go 3 and then 4. Okay, so my graph is not shifting left or right. It has the exact same x scale, But if I'm going to recreate this graph from here, let me actually bring this down a little bit more because I am kind of losing a little space. So here's kind of like my new x-axis, that because everything got shifted up 2 units. So again, I'm going to start here. It's going to go up to here, down to here. And then my minimum is going to be down 2 units from here, which is going to be up here. And then it's going to come right back there. So it's going to go up, down, here, and there. And again, guys, this is for my familiarity with the sine function. All right. Now, once we have sine written down, now it's really easy. Now we can just go ahead and quickly get in our cosecant. So again, all of my intercepts, even though these aren't actual intercepts they're not the natural x-intercepts up here, those are the x-intercepts if there was no vertical shift. So, but they're still going to create asymptotes because they're going to make the cosecant undefined, even though we're shifting it up 2. Okay, and that's really, really important. The cosecant at these angles is still undefined. It's just we have this +2 that's going on from there. And then these points are going to remain the same. And then I'm just going to have my nice little u's that, because again, we always have to approach your vertical asymptotes. All right. And then again, don't forget, let's get rid of that. We can even get rid of the dashed line if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave it there because you can see the green is what exactly I am graphing. All right. Now let's get into one that would show up on a test, right? So your teacher goes in, says, hey, here's a couple examples. And then your test rolls around, or maybe like your exit slip, and it's like, hey, can you graph cosecant? And you're like, yeah, I understand how to graph cosecant. And then your teacher's like, bam, try to go ahead and do this one. And you're like, dang it. I know how to graph cosecant. I do not recall doing these because maybe we only did one example of these. Or maybe it was just like one thing on the homework and I didn't do it. And then I missed the day that you went over it, or whatever may be the case. So again, let's just break down what we know. And hopefully when you're at the point of graphing your reciprocal functions, you've had some practice doing this for sine and cosine. Okay. Now these problems are difficult. They do confuse students. And a lot of times you can just, the best way to approach it is just to do one transformation at a time. All right. But again, let's go and look at what it would be for sine of pi halves minus 2x. Okay. And then let's identify the parts and so on and so forth. So the first thing I always tell my students to go ahead and get the b. All right. So to get the b, what we need to do is rearrange this. So the sine of negative 2x, and that's a positive pi halves. All right. Now what I need to be able to do is factor out this negative 2. Okay. Now it kind of gets confusing. Like I can factor out a negative 2 from a negative 2x, but how do you factor out a negative 2 from a pi halves? Well, again, think about it as like dividing out that term. Okay. So if you're taking a pi halves and dividing out a negative 2, what exactly would that look like? Well, let's go and do it over here. Pi halves divided by a negative 2. So to do that, what you're simply going to do is think of that as 2 over 1, multiply by 1/2 or negative 1/2 and negative 1/2. And you can see that's going to be a negative pi over 4. So what this is going to look like is a y of sine of negative 2 factored out x minus a pi over 4. Okay. All right. So let's go and identify our amplitude. Amplitude of sine. And in that case, it's just going to be the absolute value of 1, which in this case is 1. Our period is going to be 2 pi divided by absolute value of b. You can't have a negative period. So it's going to be 2 pi divided by absolute value of negative 2, which is just 2. So that's going to give me a pi. And then remember, we got to identify what our x scale is. So our x scale is going to be our period divided by 4. So therefore, that's going to be a pi over 4. And then we need to be able to determine if we have a phase shift or a vertical transformation. And you can see that negative pi over 4 is going to be shifting our graph pi over 4 to the right. So we have our phase shift. So phase shift of pi over 4 to the right. And then also, don't forget, we have a negative, right? So we need to make sure we remember that. When you have a negative on the outside of your trigonometric function, that's a reflection about the x-axis. When you have reflection on the inside, that's going to be a reflection about the y-axis. So let's go ahead and write that in there. Reflect y-axis. Okay. Now, what we want to do when we're applying our transformations is always apply the reflection before we get into our phase shift, okay? Make sure you always do that. That's true for square roots, and it's true for all of our functions. Make sure you apply that reflection before you apply the phase shift. But first of all, let's go and get our phase shift. Or I'm sorry, all right, let's go and get our x scale. So let's create a nice little x-axis. Let's go a little higher, a little lower. Let's say, all right, so that's going to be period is pi. And again, pi over 4, so that's going to be pi halves. That's pi over 4. And this is going to be 3 pi over 4. And amplitude is 1, so let's go up to 1, down to -1. And then what I'm going to do is for each transformation, I am going to, each transformation, I'm just going to use a different color. Okay, so here's our sign, right? Because we know go up, we go down, we go farther down, and then we go back up. All right. Then, so there it is. There's the x scale, the period. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do is apply a reflection. Now, the only thing I know about this reflection is if I continue the scale back over here, then that's going to be negative pi over 4. This would be a negative pi halves. The graph is going to look the exact same, right? It's going to go like that, and just kind of continue over into that pattern. But what's also happening? Now this graph is being shifted pi over 4 to the right. So I can take this point, move it over there. I can take this point and move it over there. And therefore, just following the pattern here of what I have, I can complete this initial period or one period of the graph. And again, if your teacher is asking for more than one period, then continue just your x scale. So you already have the initial period. That's what I want to teach you. You have the initial period. Just continue the pattern either in the negative or in the positive direction. Okay, I'm giving you the basics that you need. Now what we need to do is understand, I'm running out of space, so we'll use black as, well, actually, you know what? Let me redo this not in green because green is the final answer. So let's do this in a gray. So, come on, gray. Let's do this in a nice gray, like that, and like that. Okay, so again, that gave me the reflection, which I shifted over. So now let's go into our green, which is going to be our final answer. So we're going to have a vertical asymptote at this x-intercept and a vertical asymptote at this intercept. Then again, remember, it's going to share these values for your max and your min, and then it's always approaching your vertical asymptotes like this and like this. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is 3 examples for graphing the cosecant, a easy, a medium, and hard. I know it's always easy to watch somebody do math, so I created a worksheet that you can go and use to practice working through these problems on your own. If you're interested in that, I'll have the link down in the description down below, or maybe you just want to watch me do a little bit more math. So if you're looking for some more trig videos, then go and check out the playlist I have for you down below. And if you're looking for more easy, medium, hard, then check out the next video I have for you here. Cheers.